Hi, this is Lisa from Question the Narrative. Happy 2026. I'm not sure I'm going to call it the new year, but this is Tuesday, January the 6th of 2026, and our first discussion of this new year. And I'm here with Honey Golden. Honey, how are you today?
I'm good. Everything's good. It's very intense, but good.
I think we can start off with that, but it's like
Yeah.
the holidays were definitely filled with things. It was not a dull time. We've had lots of different things happening. First of all, I'll just say that the weather has been so extreme in Europe, particularly from Spain to Italy. We've got snow in central to northern Italy and up in northern Europe. We've had massive, massive rains in all of the coastal parts of the eastern coastal parts of Spain, which normally don't have. And also where I am in Puglia, massive rain with thunderstorms and all of that. And let's not forget, we had Etna erupt in Sicily for the first time of the new year, right at the new year. And it looks like she's never going to stop. So, honey, what's going on with Mother Earth or Gaia? Or what would she like to be called, first of all, right now? What would she like to be called?
Gaia.
Gaia.
She
Okay, so
likes
what is
Gaia
going on
better.
with Gaia right
Mhm.
now?
So Gaia is basically purging just like we are purging.
Hmm.
And you may notice it more in other people. I've noticed a lot of triggered people, and they'll see one thing and then just freak out and not even get the context of what the thing was for. Like I had somebody get really upset about one of the titles that I had on my videos and write this huge thing and be really upset and then basically say sorry for being a downer. And it was like, okay, so that is a trigger. There's triggers
Mm-hmm.
going on. And I know we've seen it in our own like families, we've seen it in our friends. And I feel like we probably got the worst of it over the holidays as far as triggers go. But I think it's going to keep going out into the periphery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Mother Earth is letting go too. She's blowing off steam. She's releasing. And a lot of us have been releasing pain from the past, that those triggers actually allowed you to release.
Right.
So being aware that you're triggered, I think is important.
I don't know how you felt about it, but I noticed what my triggers were a lot more over this holiday. And I'm able to then say, okay, I observed that now. Now, how do I react? And to stop and observe. And that was really helpful. But I did notice that there were triggers. And I think you're absolutely right. It's much more so over this holiday, and that's interesting. But Gaia, let's go back to Gaia as well,
Yeah.
because these triggers that she has, like the rains are prolific, and that has been part of the what has been shared with us about what this time would be like. There would be flooding, there would be a lot of water. We've had it through Edgar Casey, we've had it through Dolores Cannon, we've had it through Clement, we've had it through various now modern, psychics and people who are channeling. So, what does this water represent?
Consciousness. So consciousness is represented like when you're dreaming. If you're dreaming about the ocean, then you're dreaming about the collective consciousness. Rain is clean consciousness, washing the other consciousness clean.
Oh, interesting. That makes so much.
So she's washing things clean right now.
Mm. And is she focused in on certain areas, or is it really pretty much going around across what we know as the current planet?
I think it's been going across the planet. I don't get that people like that have been in an area that had a huge flood already will get another. So it's like she's working her way across her body. Like a lot
Mm,
of people are healing their bodies in different ways now, and she's doing the same thing, but she's
mm,
working across her surface area. And if you
Yeah.
think about it, like a lot of things were put underground that were on the, negative side, and she's also
Mhm.
flooding those out. She's clearing consciousness just in general. And when
Yeah.
she explodes a volcano, she's venting.
Mm.
She's triggered. She's like, I'm going to let that go now. I'm mad about that. I'm going to let that go, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
some of the
yeah.
volcanoes have their own energy too. So just like we have a soul, a volcano will have a soul.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's destructive and creation. So it does both.
Yeah, and the volcanoes right are because they're putting more land out there, they're shifting. So
Mhm.
let's talk about that on the volcano side. Are we shifting the amount of land? Like let's look at Etna, because Etna's been erupting for years, for decades. What's happening specifically with Etna and Sicily?
She's clearing a lot of the energy that was put upon Sicily, it feels like, and also Italy in general, but Sicily mainly. There's a
Hmm.
lot of stories about Sicily. There's a lot of negativity that supposedly originated there. And actually, it feels like a lot of that was for the good of humanity.
Hmm.
So some of those mob type energies actually were started with the family in mind and caretaking the family. And they
Yes, that
tried to
is the story
infiltrate
here.
some things, that were negative, and then a lot of them got seen as negative too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of like an inversion that's being corrected.
Well, that's very interesting because Italy always seems to be sort of in the center because Italy is handling things very differently from the rest of Europe, which then goes back into, so we've got all this flooding. It happened to be on the coastal areas of Spain and the coastal areas of Italy. But right now we've got a tsunami of governmental issues, and in particular, what's going on with the EU. So let's then shift over from what the Earth is doing and what Gaia, Mother Gaia is doing into what's going on geopolitically, which is also a very complicated and interesting time. We are forced now to be looking at movements that are puzzling on the surface level, but I'm sure have a lot more in-depth meaning. So first thing was is that we had the invasion into Venezuela and the arrest of Maduro. So Maduro was known at that point when he had this election as it wasn't really a clear election. It was a people were starving, people were on, people were very unhappy. Everybody who had money had gotten out of the country, or the majority of them had, and they were living very challenging lives. Yet Maduro was reelected as a dictator. And then the United States goes in there without what is perceived as provocation. So we've got that, and then we have an arrest. So first of all, is the when they went into Venezuela and they got Maduro, was that considered one of the first arrests in this process?
Yes. It was the first arrest. And if you'll notice, because I've been hearing about it endlessly at my house because somebody's very interested in all this stuff. So
Yeah,
they talked about indictments,
yeah.
sealed indictments. So the cat's out of the bag, basically, with the amount of sealed indictments that are going on.
Mhm. Yeah. So there are all these connections. So you've got Venezuela, and then you've got Cuba. They say that it's all to do. And then you've got most of South America. And then we go to Canada. Oh, Canada. Because they're saying all of these are connected. So first of all, let's look at South America and the Americas. If you look at a map and you look at how things have happened over South America, the United States has gone in and done regime changes in pretty much every major country in South America. And according to the Monroe Doctrine, which was done in 1893, that said that we're going to take care of South America, Europe, you're out, we're going to take care of it. But the US has been using this as an excuse to go in and regime change. Is this a regime change?
To just send it back, send the power back to the people, change.
So not a
So that,
regime change, not the real
yeah,
regime.
it back to humanity regime, out of the hands of the cartels and the Illuminati and all that stuff. Like it's back to the people. I saw a guy on TikTok basically saying, come and get the Canadian president. I can't remember what his name is. Come and get him.
Trudeau. Oh wait, no,
He's
no, it's the
contributing to
Carney. Yeah.
and this message is for Trump. We are ready for you to come and get him.
Yeah.
And basically, people are sick of it. They're sick of what's been going on. They're ready for change. And yes, a lot of people will make noise about, oh, Trump's trying to take over the world. And so we have to unite in one way or another. No humans were hurt during that whole process. It was a show.
hmm
Macron or whatever his name is, what's his name? The Venezuelan guy,
Maduro.
Maduro. He's not even a real, like, that's not the guy. That's an
It's not the
actor.
original Maduro. It's not
He's
the
not
original.
the original. He's a 2.0.
Mm,
So just let it play out. They
yeah.
have to figure out how to collapse the governments. They have a
So
plan, and they
is this
have to
like
have
the
a plan
domino?
that will get everybody engaged in paying attention.
Is this like the first domino of the political leaders being pushed down? And then we're
Yeah,
starting to see the effects of that. That's really interesting because right now people will keep on saying, oh, it's because we're trying to get the oil. But then we're also finding out that as we're unwinding what the resources are in Venezuela, is that they have a massive amount of silver,
and
which is
gold.
something, and gold, exactly. So they are very rich in natural resources. But then there's another side of this story that says that they are on specific energetic ley lines that have deep in the Amazonian forest there that they are testing and playing around with things that are controlling our matrix. Is that one of the real reasons that Venezuela was first?
There are stargates there, and there are, I mean, I've seen many like through remote looking. And
Mm-hmm.
I just do it with my soul. Like I'm not actually like leaving my body or doing anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm looking around and I've dismantled a couple of basically machines. And these machines would emit a frequency that would drop the frequency of a city, a town, and everything can be shifted with energy, but
Mm-hmm.
there's frequencies that were put like in the bottom of buildings. And is there one in that forest? I get yes, but it's already been shifted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's already better than it was. Like it's already been figured out. The ET shifted it, actually, is what I'm getting. So, and there's also stargates there.
Could the Stargates be the real reason that they were going after Venezuela first?
No,
No, okay.
no, it
Well,
just was the best option for the first domino.
okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
So interesting. So natural resource rich, clearly, was a very wealthy country. Now, obviously devastated from decades of, misappropriation, a lot of significant issues there. And then we have Trump. Now, Trump to the those who are looking at the very top layer looks like he's crazy going after a country like Venezuela that hasn't necessarily provoked the US in any particular way. And people are now at that point where they're like, well, Trump is crazy. What is he doing? We don't understand what he's doing. What is his role again right now? We've always heard that he is the one who is destroying the current system.
Mm.
But what should we know right now about what he's doing, why he's doing it, and who does he report into?
Who does he really work for? Is that what you
Yeah,
said? Yeah.
yeah.
He really works for the good military. So they have to collapse all this stuff. And they're going to make it optically look in a way that everybody will pay attention because they
Hmm.
need attention on it so that it will continue to collapse. Energy
So
goes where attention flows, or energy flows where attention goes.
I think that's really, really important on there.
Yeah.
That's funny. But so Trump is aware that his brand is being used and he's going to come out of this not looking like somebody who's done something good for the world. He's going to look like he's done something not
I don't
so
know. I
positive.
think in the end, they'll say, oh, you know, he actually did a really good thing. But it's just like when somebody all of a sudden has decided that they don't want to be in the same timeline as you. And they've decided, well, I'm not gonna even let them know, you know, or I'm gonna just ghost this person. I'm afraid to tell them that I don't want to spend time with them anymore. I'm gonna make them into the villain, even though, they're succeeding, but I don't want to let go of my trauma in order to stay on the same timeline with them. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just gonna make them into the bad guy. And we
Hmm.
all know what that feels like. I mean, since 2020, since saying, well, I'm not going to get the jab and you are, so I'm telling you, please don't get it. And people just wanting to stay numb and just go do whatever the government says. And then
Hmm.
blaming you for being a villain.
Yeah.
That's basically what's going on with Trump right now. He's being treated as the scapegoat, but eventually we will know what the operation was.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really challenging right now for people. And they want to either have him be an absolute hero or an absolute villain. And it's that dichotomy, that black and white, that's really becoming the struggle. Because when I look at him, I say his energy was to be the one who destroyed the current systems. Do I like the current systems? No. Or what were the current systems? Because they're all falling down anyway. Am I happy about them being destroyed? Yes. Do I like the process that it has to go through? It takes a lot of time for people to accept the changes, just like everybody is dealing with the transitional impact, such as how do I look at healthcare now? How do I look at finances?
Yeah.
How do I look at what my identity is? Because that's really the trigger that he comes into. But it's fascinating right now because everything comes to him. And so we've got Venezuela being that first domino. And I've also heard that that domino has to do with the Dominion voting machines. Is that another key part of why Maduro was the one who was extracted from his current
Yeah.
position?
Yeah, because it'll bring up elections all over the world.
Mm.
So, and also he was involved with China too, because China was supplying him with fentanyl that he was bringing into the US.
Mm,
That's what I
mhm.
heard this morning. So
Okay.
I think all of these things are really going to show people more than they've wanted to see. And it eventually will get into the human trafficking and it will get into the children,
Yeah,
and it will probably end up linking into Epstein eventually
which is
and
all
our
sort of,
current government and Congress. And, like all of this stuff will just keep the dominoes falling.
yeah. It's fascinating that way. And then there's also, and I'd love us for us to go, so Venezuela is an issue, then that part leads to the Dominion voting machines lead to Canada. And now we're saying that Canada now is in the crosshairs of this. And right now, people are very concerned, Canada, US, why are we having all these tariffs and why are we having these issues? They're systematically breaking down the global supply chain, which is
Mhm.
very complicated for people, for us to all to understand because it is so global. So they're moving that around. But let's go into the financial system because that really shifts around and talks a little bit more about what this is about. So I mentioned silver before, and silver seems to be a sort of the foundational thing that is
Mhm.
shifting, that's allowing us to see what's going on with the financial system. But right now, I want to go back to the one of the things that you and I have talked about before, which is the SWIFT system was the way they communicate the financial system of the central banking model. With all of these geopolitical moves and issues with different countries, that they've shown that if America and the Western central banking model are controlling financial systems, they want to go around this SWIFT system, this communication system, and what the current system is. And one of the things that happened is that Russia started creating their own. And then there was the BRICS system. And
Mhm.
sorry for the long lead, but I want to explain the question here. So we've got the BRICS system, which had been being established, and many countries, over 21, 22 countries. And then maybe, I forget right now, it could be even like 70 countries that were involved in it. But now it seems to be shifting again, honey, where there is an alliance between or amongst Russia, the US, and China to use the other systems, which then says, okay, BRICS is gone now too, because that could have been nefarious. We didn't really know what was going on. Is this new alliance of the major players on the global financial stage, is that the new system? Did we just bypass two other systems like Cliff High had always announced that we'll reject a few and then accept one? Is this the new system that we are supposed to accept now?
XRP is the new system. Yeah. So behind the scenes. And it was always going to be a system or one of the big systems. I think BRICS, the thing is humanity wasn't ready at that point when BRICS was being established to actually switch everything over.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't go. It just fizzled. And it was a great introduction. Just like if you're an entrepreneur and you start a business and it doesn't work, but you learn so many things that your next business works,
Yeah, yeah.
it's exactly the same as that, basically.
Wow. So this one of those, I reject this financial instrument and we've rejected, and now this one seems to be the one doing it, right?
Yeah, and I think the BRICS countries will say, okay, well, they're going to use gold anyway.
Yeah, it's
So
the
this is
same
going to be
situation.
better for us. So we'll go into this system as well. And I think, the new leaders, which are military, they're part of the good military. All these countries have capitulated a long time ago.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of figuring out, well, which way is this going to fit best for
Mm.
humanity? And how do we collapse everything and also don't continue to have a nanny state, which is what
Mm.
they call it in Europe? Like
Mm.
the nanny takes care of all of us and we don't have to do anything. The power
Mm.
going back to the people means the people actually have to do something. We
Yeah,
can't just
yeah,
expect leaders to actually take care of us anymore. We have to take care of us.
yeah.
So it's a really big shift. And that's why Trump can't look like a savior
Right.
because he's not our
Yes.
savior. We are.
And this is so important, the kind of thing, but this new alliance is breaking away from every one of those big countries is breaking away from that original central banking system. And what we have now are these real significant, clear pieces of the puzzle starting to really be refined, such as the Federal Reserve, which was put under the Treasury, the US Treasury, under the first Trump administration. We no longer are having the original, the chair of the Federal Reserve Jerome Powell is out of here in May, but you know what? There's a shadow one, and he's already been doing the other things that he wants to do. And that's a big shift. So that breaks down the largest of the Federal Reserve banks. So that changes fundamentally everything. Then we have silver, silver breaking out. And everything that we're hearing right now is that the trades, the short positions of the paper trading of silver is all blowing up. That means banks could go down. So let's ask this, honey. Will there be bank failures right now over the next couple weeks, month?
A few. There will be a few. Um, so tune into your own bank. Like when I tune into mine, I get it's going to be okay. The
Yeah.
ones that have been highlighted a lot, like Capital One and some of those banks, I don't know. I feel like what'll
Yeah.
happen is there could be like a big failure,
Mm-hmm.
and then the government will come in and say, we're going to just take it over and
Yeah.
we're going to give you guys all your money. Um, and then you may be asked to go to a different bank to take that to a different bank. I don't know. But I
But
don't
our
think
bank,
anybody will be out a bunch of money.
yeah, I don't think so either as well. And I don't, I feel that. And I also feel that the banking system, the concept of a bank and what we use a bank for is going to shift so much anyway that
Mhm.
that isn't what we should be worried about, kind of a thing. But is
Yeah.
interesting, but is
They'll
very,
be the ones who help you with your straw man. So your straw man will be because they've been messing with your straw man account this whole time. They're taking out loans against your straw man account to give you a house. And they're saying, oh, well, you just agree to pay all this interest, but we could have just given you the money because it's
yeah.
yours. So all of that will shift and they will, that's why they rebranded as wealth managers
Mm.
because
But
they
what's really
will be
funny,
helping you. Yeah.
yeah, it's so interesting. And I love that, but by the way, first of all, that they will be helping you. And that will not be AI. That will be human beings helping you figure out because this is all about like sharing and changing a mindset about what finances is and worthiness is and all of that. But what you just said about your straw man buying your house, how you said it really triggered me as to what the definition of private equity is right now. And private equity has been market manipulating, engineering, all sorts of things. And specifically, what they do is they've taken companies that have been very successful and put a lot of debt, but they take the debt out in the name of the company versus the name of the acquirer, the private equity fund. So that's kind of the same thing that they've done. They've made us become debtors by
Yeah.
forcing us to take a loan on ourselves. So that's a very interesting scenario. And the reason I'm triggered by that point is because it comes down to housing. Right now, we've had the Black Rocks and the Blackstones or the all the private equity groups purchasing all the existing homes. What's going to shift there for people? How is that going to get better? Because I can feel it's better. It's going to be super much better.
So much better because those companies have been taken over by the white hats. So what are they going to do? They're going to, so as we shift into gold and everybody is aware that we've shifted into gold backed money, all the
Hmm.
interest goes away. So all those homes are going to be worth what they were worth in 1970, or what they would have been worth in 1970 when we switched off the gold. I don't think we'll get
Hmm.
back to the 50s. I think that, was to kind of show people because there was a big narrative about that. I don't think we'll go back to the prices of the 50s, but I think
Hmm.
we will go back to the prices of the 70s.
Hmm. So
And yeah,
that's
it's
the pricing part of it. I'm talking also about availability.
oh,
Where are all
they're
these?
all going to be sold to the people, either sold or given to people, depending on what their situation is, you know? But everybody will be entitled to a home and a car and a
Mhm.
monthly income. And they've been showing us all of that stuff for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
But it takes a while to get into the consciousness of humanity
Yeah.
because
It's
they're
it's
really
a
in their
big shift.
loops. Hmm.
Really big shift because I think that concept, but right now it is about home availability. I look now in New York City in particular, as my daughter is moving back there, and the housing expense is through the roof, yet so many people have left. So let's ask this question, honey, in New York City in specific, in particular, how many people remain in New York City and Manhattan?
I get 3/4 of what was there are still there.
Mhm.
Um, but the majority of them are NPCs because most
And
of the genuine human souls have left because they recognize it wasn't good.
mhm. And is there really a housing shortage?
No, there's a surplus.
Okay. And what and how is that going to shift?
People will be told that there's a surplus. I feel like, just like this Minnesota kid, this young guy who's 23 gets a hold of somebody who is most obviously on the good side. And he gets a hold of somebody, or that somebody gets a hold of him, and they do this video that's going to blow up all of the, negative fraud that's been going on in Minnesota. That's going to happen everywhere. And it will
Hmm.
happen for all the
Yes.
things. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. Because to me, that's what's really exciting about things. And will that because New York City is just a representation of big cities. Will
Mhm.
big cities be a place worth living in again, or is it really going to shift away from them?
I get they're going to be hollowed out, but I get the population will be much smaller.
Hmm.
So Edgar Casey, I think, predicted 300,000 people would be left. But he also predicted a very intense amount of flooding. He was looking at one of the more negative timelines. Sorry, and my
Hmm.
throat is
Oh, do you
like,
need some water?
yeah. So he predicted a more negative timeline, and that's what was available at that point. So in 2009, when I was asking, I got that we had shifted out of it because we
Mm,
moved to Colorado in order to build on top of a mountain so that we wouldn't be flooded as a family.
hmm.
But we
And
didn't have to
now,
worry about it by 2009. So, because I was really stressed about it. I'm like, in 3 years, here comes 2012. What's going to happen? We don't have a house up there yet. And it was like, don't worry about it. Everything's shifted.
wow, wow.
So we shifted back then. That doesn't mean there's not going to be floods. It just means we're not participating in a worldwide flood like the flood of Noah
Right.
anymore.
Are
And
we?
the
Oh,
population will still be small, though.
mhm,
Not 300,000, more like 330 million
mhm.
people will actually be left here. And there's a lot less people anyway.
Right. As you said,
Yeah.
that there were that's massive shifting. With the shift of the timeline, has that the positive changes about what's happening with the Earth, is that something that the white hats and the extraterrestrials have helped shield us from, or is that just the normal thing about what happened with the timeline?
No, it was shifted on purpose. So the universe had a lot to do with it. Humanity having all these big souls come in to human bodies had a lot to do with it. And if you think about, not everybody's going to believe this, but beyond the ice wall was taken care of first, which was like the nest of nastiness, right? So that's
Mm,
where all the controllers really lived.
mm,
And
mm.
then, it came into this area. So beyond the ice wall was where the dome went down you know, like it was encased in the dome as well. And that dome is dissolved now. We just have a frequency up there and it kind of
Mm.
glitches a lot. So people see lines in the sky. They're like, is the sky broken? It's like, no, you're watching the TV screen. And that's why there's like a split in the middle,
Right, right. It's like,
you know.
wait, I
Um,
have a little bit of an LED problem here.
right. So once the ETs took care of that, and it was the good ETs that took care of that area, then they started to help in this area. So 2013, that happened. 2016, Trump got elected. Things have been moving actually very fast.
Mm.
So all those timeline shifts had to do with help. We had a lot of outside help. And
Mm.
it's time for us to step into what our role is now and create from within. So, yeah, basically that's
That's
why it shifted.
that's very exciting. And are we constantly shifting timelines, like
Mhm.
massive, major shifts of timelines, or are we settling on a particular timeline?
We're not settled yet. I think we've got a good 6 weeks of chaos.
Mhm.
So
How
caretaking yourself
come?
is really important. We're at the end of that year of the snake, the shedding, and all the astrology and all of my feeling about what's going on is all pointing towards pretty chaotic times for the next 6 weeks. So just being really aware of your own feelings and how you're doing in your body and all that kind of stuff is really important right now.
Wonderful. No, it is really, really important, and I think it's a time for us to really go inside. What an opportunity too, to because we are part of that shift, which is
Mhm.
really amazing. Let me ask this: we were talking so much before the end of the year about Three Eye Atlas. Now it's Venezuela, it's silver. We're not talking about this. What happened to Three Eye Atlas? Who, when it was so close to us, what happened?
I think they were just seeding humanity. Now, a lot of things shifted. So, a lot of the blueprint and a lot of the frequencies shifted, but we will see Three Eye Atlas again. And
Mhm.
there is a time period in March where Three Eye Atlas is supposed to be the closest to Earth and then supposed to leave this galaxy after that. So, what are we actually going to see at that point? I don't know. And my intuition says we may see something before that point that has to do with extraterrestrials.
So
So
I thought the closest point was supposed to be at the end of December, like the
I
22nd of
thought so
December.
too, but
And then,
they redid the narrative.
and who is they? It's
They is
not a
the
Space
White
Force,
Hats.
NASA. What
It's the White Hats. Yeah.
okay. So why did they do that, Connie?
Well, I don't think humanity was quite ready for ET contact in that moment in December.
Uh,
And they saw an opportunity to do more things.
mhm.
So the opportunity of Venezuela, the opportunity of what's going on in Minnesota, which is like nobody wants to pay their taxes anymore, right? Because it's all being stolen. All of the yucky state governments are going to be exposed, and the fraud is being exposed in a totally different way now because it's
Mm,
coming from the people. They're going and
mm,
finding it out on their own.
mm,
And
mhm.
then the Venezuela thing, which will, I mean, you've got two tracks there. You've got the people doing something, and you've got the government doing something, and both of them are kind of imploding government.
Mm. And
Yeah.
that's good. So that's happening, I think, very well in the US and in South America, but it's not happening in Europe. What's holding Europe back? Other than
They,
what's the underline?
yeah, they have to get to the Rothschilds, I think. So Europe is like that's the Rothschild nest. And that has to be exposed, and it will probably be exposed through Venezuela and Epstein.
Hmm.
So those two things. And then also Israel is another thing, like that government has to be exposed. A lot of people think that Trump is working for Israel,
Yeah, a
you
lot
know,
of people do. Hmm.
and they're very upset about that. And I listened to a group of people in the coffee shop the other day, very upset, older gentlemen yelling in there, because they can't hear very well, and basically sending all this
Okay.
information out into the whole coffee shop. And I was like, oh, they're upset. They're helping because they're contributing to change because their attention is on it, but they also don't get the point of
Yeah.
what's going on.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And there is so much of that because you have these things, you have Trump, the brand Trump and the family Trump, and you
Mhm.
have Ivanka's husband, Jared Kushner, who is doing these things in Gaza and participating and is a Jewish man. Is that the original Jared Kushner?
No,
And is that Jared Kushner working for good or for the not so good?
he's working for good, but he's also playing out a part that's going to be seen.
Mhm. Okay. And is Ivanka, the original Ivanka?
I get no. Mm-mm. Well, and most of them are 2.0s in the public eye at this point as
But is
well.
there an original Ivanka? Is she somewhere?
She's like a shadow of herself,
Hmm.
almost like in recovery. She still exists. She doesn't have the same soul that she
Hmm.
did. Like the body of Ivanka still exists, but it's been really, really hard on her because she went into things with an innocent, you know, this is my white knight type mindset,
Hmm.
and which is very dangerous, the white knight syndrome.
Hmm.
Um, and I think her whole world kind of blew up.
Hmm. Hmm.
So she will recover, I feel like, but she's kind of like a shell of
Right.
herself right now.
Yeah.
Um, she's got she had a pretty big soul, and she's got a younger soul now that's
Okay.
kind of maintaining her, keeping her here. Yeah.
And what were the roles of Donald Trump's children supposed to play, given his major role in this game that we're playing right now?
They're supporting roles, supporting actors. I don't think any of them that we see are really the actual person very often, unless it's a very controlled environment. Even Barron, I feel like sometimes he's not Barron.
Hmm.
So it just depends. If they're being seen in public in a place where a gun could be used, it's not them.
It's not them. Yeah. Okay. But it's
Yeah.
important because they had such who had such a big role in humanities. Is
Yeah.
timing what their roles would be. That would be very interesting.
The biggest point for them as a family is to show that they are a beautiful family, that he was a good father, and that they support him as a family. So the
Mm,
biggest part is the love.
okay. Hey, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
always a huge part. So now I have one question that is sort of strange. It's a non sequitur here.
Okay.
So we know that in our history, we're hearing a lot now about the Anunnakis and how the Anunnaki create, the role of the Anunnaki, because they did not create humanity. They tinkered with humanity and they played a major role in our history.
Mhm.
So the Anunnaki, and they talk about how they came down, and from the biblical analogy is that they created major cities and major pieces of construction in 6 days and rest on the seventh, and all these things that are analogous to the biblical stories of God. The question, with all of that, are the Anunnaki construction, was what they created, was that Tartarian buildings? Are they the same?
It was pre-Tartarian.
Yeah, and it was
So,
pre-Tartarian, but did the Tartarians take over the Anunnaki construction?
a lot of it. So think about when they say that, so the Anunnaki are also what I would call the Nephilim.
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
mm-hmm,
So enormous beings. And here in Colorado and then all the surrounding states, there's these huge structures that look like they've been melted. They look like a foundation of something. They don't look like an ancient tree, you know.
mm-hmm,
And through driving around, I see a lot of these structures. There's huge pyramids that, people are like, oh, well, that's just a mountain. I'm like, really? Look at how
mm-hmm,
perfect that mountain is in shape. And that looks like a pyramid. And they're all around me. Like I see them everywhere.
mm-hmm,
So they messed around with the DNA. So they built all those really enormous structures with a lot of the same technology and then messed around with the DNA and created smaller and smaller beings. And those giants are the ones that actually created a lot of Tartaria. So it was like one um one of them, the older version, was melted and destroyed through Atlantis, through Noah, Noah's flood, through all those things and the ice age and everything. And then the giants rebuilt and used the same technology.
mm-hmm,
So that's why some of those cathedrals are so much bigger than others because they
mm-hmm,
just kept shrinking. But it's
mm-hmm.
also why we're starting to see people that are coming in and they're like 7 foot two, there's this woman who's a basketball player, and there's a few of them, and they're over 7 feet tall. And I don't think it's because of hormones. These ladies are from other countries. They're not from the US, and they're not getting the food that you would get your hormones messed with. And they're also not from countries like, that have been shown to be giving hormones to their Olympic athletes.
Hmm.
So this is the giant DNA reemerging.
Interesting. What is the height that humanity will eventually end up being?
I get around 10 feet. So like men will probably be around 10 feet and women will probably be around probably like eight or
Wow.
nine,
We're gonna have to
depending.
change our shoe sizes then. Hmm.
Yeah. And that'll take a long, long time. A long
Time.
time. Because
Yeah.
we're gonna want to be on a same, like if you're talking to an ET, some of them are 15 feet tall.
Hmm.
So are you
Mhm.
gonna want to yell up to someone and have a conversation? Or is humanity going to agree to basically go back to their original blueprint? Because I think that Sumerians were actually quite a bit bigger than we
Yeah.
are.
No, there's just definitely all of that. And I see when you do look at the older structures here in Europe, which haven't been destroyed to the same extent that they were in other parts of the world, is that they were much bigger and they were much taller.
Oh, yeah.
And but then everything shrunk down significantly. And it's fascinating to see all of that. And I told you over this trip when I was in Sevilla, I saw these trees though that are just enormous tree trunks. They didn't look like part of what was normally in Europe as well. So there's all these different things that have shifted around. Some things were not destroyed in a different way. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of clues, a lot of breadcrumbs that were left behind. Very interesting. One last question, and then let you see if there's anything that we missed here. Switzerland, the massive fire that happened on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day in Switzerland in that club. What was that? Just an
There's something
accident?
under the club. There's something under the club that had to be destroyed.
Hmm.
It feels like divine intervention, honestly, but it was very, very painful for humanity.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there that we did hear people did die from.
Yeah.
But it seemed very odd and no one had a story and they couldn't find the story very quickly like they normally do. The narrative just didn't flow out of the media.
Yeah, because it wasn't controlled. It
Hmm.
wasn't created on purpose. It was more divine. And it was very painful. And there's something under that club that is going to be exposed.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll be waiting for that. All right, Miss Honey, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about that we didn't hit on today?
Just be kind to yourself. Be as aware of your triggers as you can so that you're not unkind to others during this time. We're in this like biblical last shedding of the old matrix, and it could be a very intense experience over the next 6 weeks.
All right. So we'll keep in touch with everybody and
Yes.
be aware. Continue, the more we're aware of it, the more likely we are to be able to observe that and shift that on our own. So,
Mhm.
honey, thank you so much. It's great
Thank
to be back
you.
with you in 2026, whatever we want to call this, and wishing everybody a great day. This is Lisa from Question the Narrative. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Ciao.
Love you guys. Bye.